22 to order. The first order of business on our agenda tonight is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, 8:15 of 22, copies of which are in the packets. Does anybody have any revisions or corrections to the minutes they need done? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as they were written. Motion by McElhaney, second by Denny. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one's opposed. The minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. We do have 3 recommended denials this evening. Our ordinance does allow for those individuals to approach the committee and discuss the elements of their record that led to the denial. Do we have Joshua Newberry? Joshua Newberry? Caleb Cluey? Come on up, Caleb, if you want to state your address for the record also, and then I guess talk with us if there's any elements of your record that are factually inaccurate or why you would not agree with the recommendation of the police department.
632 Scott Street would be my address, ma'am.
Okay.
I'd like to appeal it. I, excuse me, recently just got out of incarceration and have been doing my best to turn my life around. Since April, upon my release, I've been denied 3 jobs and 2 others that I didn't even get an interview because of my background. I'm actively and passionately trying to better my life, and I've hit nothing but roadblocks and just want the chance to succeed as a person in our community.
Okay. With regard to the record, though, the elements on the record or the information on the record is fairly recent. Is any of the record not accurate?
It is all accurate, ma'am. 2018 is when I was charged. I sat 3 years before I was sentenced, so the charges are not as recent as the 2021 sentencing date. On the application for the public transportation license, it did say that there would be denial for anything that pertained to the license itself. All that stuff on there is not pertaining to any driving thing.
Well, it's not necessarily driving, though. It's understand that when someone gets in a cab with you, they may not necessarily be in the best state in terms of their own judgment. Often people will take taxi rides home after they've been consuming alcohol or whatnot, and they then also there has to be a duty of care that's exercised in dealing with those folks. And so the things that are relevant to keeping someone safe when they're entrusted into your custody, you know, one-on-one in a vehicle is a little bit different than just motor vehicle driving type things. You know, the things that we see on the record are drug violations. It looks like sale of such, disorderly conduct. There's been theft. There's been criminal damage. So, you know, those things that, you know, we see, you know, published on the record that was given to us. I'm just one committee member, but it would make it difficult for me to put someone who may be in an impaired state in an automobile with you alone. I mean, I just think that if these violations were older and, you know, more time had passed, but this record is pretty fresh. So I guess Deputy Chief Barnes, do you have anything to weigh in on with the denial at all?
Simply you did a good job of summarizing what the convictions were. You know, our assessment of criminal records is not subjective, it's objective. And we have criteria. These violations met the criteria for us to recommend a denial. And that's the chief's position, and I would support that.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Doug.
So maybe I misunderstood the dates. So it's when was the last offense? 2018, was that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Our packet shows convictions in 21, though.
That was sentencing.
Okay.
So just to clarify that over COVID, frequently individuals that had charges in 2018, 2019, it may take several years for it to make it through the court system and actually have a conviction with a sentencing that follows shortly thereafter. So I don't have the documentation in front of me, but I don't have any reason to believe he's not being accurate.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for that. And we have one additional applicant. Let's see, so, and what we'll do is, absent a motion to consider Caleb separately, we will consider him with the batch. Same with Newberry. The last applicant that has the right to address the committee is Kim Waits. Is Kim Waits with us this evening? Come on up, Kim. State your name and address for the record, and then talk to us about any elements within your record here that are not accurate.
The only one I believe that's not accurate on there is the child one for my daughter.
Okay, let me see if I can switch.
It's a battery charge for her that I'm trying to look into now still.
Okay. But the other elements that are shown on the record, as far as the OWI, THC, and it looks like there's a variety of pending felony drug charges, is that correct?
Yes, I have just went to court this morning at 8:30 this morning. All those will be dropped within 2 years of my probation time. I'm on probation for those misdemeanor charges, for them charges now.
Okay. Again, I'm just one member, but I would like to have seen those things a little further in your past, and I would like to have seen that time pass and have those things drop before we would permit the license. Also, just like I told Caleb, obviously when someone gets into a taxi cab with somebody, we have a higher degree of care that we expect from those individuals, because the folks that are riding with you, may not necessarily, now is that? She's a bartender. Oh, this is bartender, sorry.
Yeah.
I see that, yep, there are two separate sections here. So, okay, bartender, similar. The bartender license allows you to 10 bar alone in the establishment? But
It's actually from my job working at Tobacco Outlet.
Okay,
It's a liquor store, and
Okay.
they need for me to have license just in case I have to be there by myself.
right. It's the same license either
Yeah.
way, whether you 10 bar or whether you sell
Oh, okay.
retail. We have actually sent a request down to our representatives in Madison requesting that they would split those licenses and give us the option to either restrict the bartender license to retail only or offer a retail only license. Neither of those things have happened. So the license that we have to give is the full license. So even if you apply to sell retail, that doesn't mean that you couldn't use the same license to 10 bar. So not having that distinction has been a struggle for us, just because of the things that exist on the record. And,
Yeah, I had
it
my
is the
last
full license.
My last DUI was 2005. I have not been in no trouble or got into no trouble. I'm 43 years old. I'm just trying to start my career, my life over. I got 3 kids, 2 grandkids. I'm just really just want somebody to give me a chance, because I know it. I'm not a bad person. I made bad decisions being with the wrong people at the wrong time, but I learned from their mistakes, and I'm just trying to do better.
Okay. Committee members, questions for Ms. Waits? If not, Deputy Chief Barnes, do you have anything on this particular record at all?
I'd reiterate my same point earlier that the criminal history for Ms. Waits met the objective standard for us to recommend denial.
Sure. And that's true. I would like to see us get to the point where the stuff that's going to be dropped over time would be dropped before we would approve the license. If we had a retail-only license, that would be an option. That might, cause us to view it differently. But given the fact that the license we have to give is the full, I guess I struggle with that as well. Okay. Absent additional questions from the committee members, you can go ahead and have a seat if you like. So with that, there's no special events for this month. I would entertain a motion to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff.
I would want to vote on these two separately, Kim Watts and Caleb Clue.
Okay?
I don't think it's
So you
fair.
wanna- do you want-
I don't think it's fair to the individual for them to be placed into a group.
Well, if the committee's intent is to uphold the recommendation of the police department, they stay with the badge. So unless you're intending to look to overturn the recommendation, they should stay with the badge.
I would second that. We take them
You want to do
separate.
separate considerations?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then, okay, so we'll do that. So then also know, though, that if the decision of this committee, and then that decision further goes to council, if that then obscures the criteria or goes against the recommended criteria for license granting or license denial, that is a precedent-setting situation where you would be granting licenses in a situation where you perhaps have withheld them before, and that then causes allegations of disparate treatment between applicants. So we need to tread lightly when we roll over that criteria. But we'll take these two separately. So first, I will accept a motion then to accept or deny all licenses as recommended by staff with the exception of Caleb Cluey and Kim Waits. Someone want to put that motion forward? Motion by Henke. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Further discussion? Hearing none. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. So then, separate motion, we'll take a motion to override the recommendation and accept the license of Caleb Cluey. Is there such a motion? Okay, we have a motion then to approve that license. Is there a second? Second by Denny. Further discussion? Members in favor of granting the license signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Members opposed?
No.
Nay. So that motion fails 3-2. Same action here. Do we have a motion to reverse the criteria and accept the license of Kim Waits?
Also make that motion.
Motion by Larson, second by Denny.
Yep.
Members in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Nay. Okay, that also fails 3-2. So denied applicants have the option to approach the city council when the license is considered. I believe this one will be considered the second Tuesday of October at 6:30 PM in the same chamber. So, all right. So that takes care of our licensing for the month. Thank you, everyone, for coming down. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance creating section 8.08.115, large-scale commercial animal breeding prohibited. You've got some background information from the police department in your packets, talking about puppy and kitten mills. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, you said the second Tuesday?
Second Tuesday.
I was
Yep.
okay to make that meeting, so would that follow me, because I have surgery on the 5th.
Okay.
Could try next Tuesday, the 26th.
Okay. It's up to you guys if you can have it processed by then. That one could be placed on the agenda for the 27th, which is Tuesday night, next Tuesday. Okay,
At the same time?
6:30.
6:30, I'll be here. Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we do have some information in our packets regarding large-scale breeding operations. Currently, we do not locally have pet shops that are selling puppies and kittens, but I believe this started out last month in Weston. And since we have tried to oftentimes dovetail a lot of our animal policies between the two communities so that there's consistency in the way we enforce, since we share our humane officer, it makes sense that we would also consider this. So welcome, Mayor.
Hello. I guess I just wanted to give you a little background on how this came to be. I stopped by a local business and I met Susan here, who was telling me about the work she was doing in other municipalities and asked if that would be something we would consider here. And of course, like you, my first question was, do we have a pet store? And we don't. So maybe that makes it easier to consider a regulation like this since it wouldn't be affecting a current business right now. But she's pretty passionate, so if you wanted to hear from her, I'm sure she'd be willing to share her thoughts on this. But, you know, this is an opportunity for us to talk through the puppy mill stuff and
Sure.
whatever we consider our values here. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
Sounds great. Yep, come on up if you'd like to talk to the committee about your work and the origins of the ordinance.
Sure. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, sorry. I'm not great at this stuff, but. So just to give you a little background on me, yes, I was the one that spoke up in Weston. There is a store there that primarily sells puppies, and that is very difficult to see on my end because I see these dogs coming in through a rescue that I work with as a volunteer, coming straight out of these puppy mills that we need to take care of, we need to vet them, we need to rehabilitate them to get them back into some kind of condition that they can possibly be adopted out into the community. They are terrified, they have horrible conditions, they're matted down to their skin. The dog that Mayor saw at that establishment, it took me 5 hours to actually shave him down because he was so matted. Fantastic dog, does have some psychological issues now from being put into these cages for multiple years, but he does have a loving family. He lives actually in Stevens Point now, and I get weekly updates on him. You will often hear people say, but they're USDA licensed, right? Licensing should be fantastic, you know. That is not how the USDA presents things and follows through. It is okay to have a licensed breeder have over 1,000 dogs. It's totally fine. And each dog this is astounding to me, that each dog, female dog and her offspring can create up to 67,000 dogs with that. I know, that's exactly what what I did my research. So if she has a puppy and then she could have 3 cycles during that year, she can then have, between 4 and 10 puppies, and then those puppies create more and more and more. Great, getting that in about 6 years, the 67,000 puppies. So imagine those facilities that have 1,000 dogs. The USDA relies on teachable moments, so if there is a problematic facility, that facility doesn't automatically get shut down. They come in, they try, hey, you know what, let's do better. It very rarely gets shut down, and these dogs continue to have psychological issues and getting put back out. The cage that is required for these dogs that the USDA says is okay and it's one of their standards, I don't know how many dog lovers we have here, but my dog does not live like this on a daily basis. But their kennels only need to be 6 inches from their bodies, up, top, and all around. If I brought my dog in today and put her up here in that kind of kennel, I think everyone would be appalled of the condition that I had. That dog does never, ever has to come out of that cage while it's in a facility. The breeder only needs an exercise plan for that dog, but doesn't technically need to exercise that dog. So that dog could spend, depending, 6, 7, 8 years, depending on how much she can pop out and produce and make them money. Let me see. People often just see that cute little puppy. They don't think about where those adult dogs actually came from. I do see that, where they came from, and I do actually see those dogs. I do have pictures. I did not feel you needed to see those because it is very traumatic on our end. Pet stores, like we know, I'll throw out Cats and Barkers, have been in town for many years. They have never sold puppies, and they are quite successful. Pet stores do not need to sell puppies, or do not need to sell puppies in order to be successful. More than 3,000 pet stores nationwide have signed a Humane Society of the United States pledge to not sell puppies, but to sell products and services. Wausau would be in good company if the Humane Pet Store Ordinance is passed. Over 400 localities across the nation, including Whitewater, Fort Atkinson, Appleton, Wauwatosa, and Waukesha, already prohibit the sale of puppy stores. Many of these dogs and puppies that are supplied to these pet stores, primarily pet lands and things like that, they do come directly from a puppy mill. That is how they make their money, through a broker. These pet stores also do not require spay and neuter contracts, and it can be a concern, resulting in adding up to more backyard breeders, breeding more dogs with possible health and genetic concerns, and leaving already full rescues and shelters to deal with unwanted animal and vetting costs. And we all know that is huge here. Our shelter is usually full. If we can't buy from a breeder, who the heck are we going to get our dogs from, right? There are always wonderful dogs needing loving homes at your local shelters. There are available dogs of any age there. They end up there at no fault of their own. Many times it is the people that are putting them there because it's a divorce or maybe they had to move, whatever it is. If you're fond of a particular breed, there are breed-specific rescues. All you got to do is hit Google and that will take you right to one. Many of them are right here in Wisconsin. A local rescue may be a good option as well, one that I'm affiliated with. We are right here in Wausau as well. And all of our dogs live in our homes with us, so we know exactly what that dog is all about, if they're good with children, those kind of things. Other dogs, cats. You can also do your research to find a quality breeder that meets responsible breeding qualifications. So you have options not to have these large breeding facilities. Some breeders, I will say, do take care of their dogs better than others. Some, it's atrocious, and cages are stacked, and poop is everywhere, and these dogs are disgusting when they get here. I just ask that you really consider the big picture and not just that cute puppy that you see and the story that you're being told by whomever is trying to put money into their pocket out of, I guess, greed, really. I mean, that's what I see. Does anyone have any questions for me? I'm happy to answer, or?
I don't. Committee members, do you have questions? Go ahead, Chad.
So Weston already passed something similar to this. Did we copy,
No,
use any help from them? Or?
I used, I believe, Wauwausa's.
I mean, if it's okay to say something about Weston, so I was told the reason that it was not passed is because they felt that we were trying to close their store instead of having them sell supplies versus selling their puppies. On their sign, it clearly states puppies and supplies. If you've ever visited the store, it has very few supplies, more puppies than supplies. So I guess if I'm being completely truthful, yes, I guess, unfortunately, I never want to see a local business go down. I am a business owner myself, but when that is your product, I can't stand behind that with my passion of this kind of situation.
Well, and in our case, Wausau doesn't have any yet. This would then, restrict in advance their ability to sell. It looks like puppies, kittens, and rabbits. It doesn't look, though, it's defined in scope to large-scale breeding, more than 25 animals a year. So it doesn't look like this would affect the private family breeder or the occasional breeder. This is strictly the large-scale stuff.
Unless they are having, maybe they have multiple dogs, that it's up to 3 litters of
Okay.
dogs as well. I also have, and I don't know if you want it, but Baling-O-Benji is actually, they have created Wisconsin Puppy Mill and Pet Ordinance Guide. Baling-O-Benji goes around and in order to sell a dog, you have to have a certified vetting inspection. So it's called a CVI. So in our rescue, in order for that dog to come from Texas to Wisconsin, we have to have a dog looked over by a vet, and it has to come onto a document. They're about $75 for each dog. So any dog that we bring across state lines or any dog that is sold, that dog has to be looked at by a vet. And those are updated every 30 days, as long as that dog is in the care of even us or as a breeder or someone that's selling that dog. So a CVI has to happen. Baling-O-Benji looks at those and looks at breeders that are not of high quality in the state of Wisconsin. And they also have assisted with those other counties or towns in order to eliminate the sale of puppies.
Okay. Becky, go ahead.
I have a question for Nate. Nate, I guess I would like you to explain, because I don't see, I'm looking under, I see the whereas, but I'm looking at for be it resolved part. I don't see clearly what you're restricting here.
Well, it's an ordinance. It's not a resolution.
Right, but I guess I'm looking and would you please clarify what you are specifically restricting? Because
Is that under C? Restrictions on the
Yep.
sale of animals?
Yeah.
Adding all of this text by creating that section.
Okay.
Yeah, so the whereas clauses is mainly because of the pushback that I was expecting to maybe get based on what happened in Weston.
Okay.
The whereas is just supposed to be kind of background of
Okay.
kind of where this came from. sort of thing. But yeah, the restriction is then in C.
So, no pet store shall sell, deliver, offer for sale, barter, auction, give away, or otherwise transfer or dispose of cats, dogs, or rabbits. But then it said they can collaborate with animal care facilities or animal rescue organizations. But then they cannot be part of that, correct? They would have to have a separate entity come?
It says they're allowing a showcase for them.
Yeah, because
So-
it would have to be a separate, and, they can't be part of like a rescue, correct?
Right.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, yeah.
Did I say-
So, but yeah, I did look at quite a few in Wisconsin that had it and kind of compiled one that to me, I like the best, but obviously it's not me that would be approving it, it's everybody here. So I'm also always able to make any amendments, changes.
This
if
one is clear, though. I
anybody
do
want.
like the fact that this one is clear about the large-scale element, because I think that there would ordinarily be concerns from private breeders or private individuals who wish to breed, their own pet. For this, same thing with, people who breed show dogs and things. But the fact that this is confined to large scale and a larger quantity, it does seem to make sense. Committee members, additional questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Doug.
A couple of questions. Regarding the verbiage, what is the purpose of saying dogs may not be kept overnight? Does this imply that there could be some maybe grooming services there, or why would a dog?
So I was telling Lisa I probably should have held off on this one because next month, when I don't want to get too far off topic, but there is a kennel license coming up, and then that'll kind of be playing in hand with that, because right now we offer pet licenses for the residential owner, pet fancier license for somebody that has more than the certain allotment of cats, dogs. I don't know off the top of my head right now. But then for a commercial kennel license, which would be for like doggy daycare, boarding, grooming, stuff like that, that's then what that's going to get then involved in.
So then this not kept overnight should be to eliminate conflict between this and that?
Correct.
That we haven't done yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then, in a large scale, just to better understand that, I don't know what a typical breeder potentially could do. Is 25 the number? Is that what you said? Somebody said 25 per year?
She said 3 litters.
So we're trying to restrict that?
So I guess looking at the fact that the normal person thinks of a puppy mill of cranking out puppies. 3 litters a year is aggressive. Anything more than that is aggressive, and so that's
Okay.
what I was.
Litters, right, but 25 total animals. Oh, you're talking about per breeder? I mean, a breeder could potentially be a small farm of raising rabbits, for example, and is there so 3 per dog is quite a bit different than 3 per rabbit. Not to get too.
Is the rabbit, and I
wrapped around
guess,
the axle here, but-
here's the thing, because, puppy and kitten we're aware of, is this even a problem with rabbits? Because,
I don't know, but it's in there.
It can be over the Easter time, and then all of a sudden, I'm not all into rabbits, so I'm not super knowledgeable about this, but I do know that in the past I have heard about the rabbits being sold during Easter time, and then people letting the rabbits just go, because they're not cute little bunnies anymore.
well, what are your thoughts, committee? You can act on it tonight. If you want to mull it over for a month, you can hold action on it and reconsider it next month. You can modify it if you wish to remove rabbits. It's up to you.
I'm a little conflicted on it, just on some of the terms here. Breeder, for example, is a person that maintains a dog or cat for the purpose of breeding and selling their offspring. Does that mean that breeder could not sell pet supplies, dog food? I mean, potentially be considered a store? I mean, I understand the intent here, but we're also potentially not real tight here on maybe some unintended consequences.
Well, I guess I was looking at it that this definition applies only to this ordinance section.
So
Whereas-
if they're running a store, if a private individual wants to run a store that sells supplies or services or whatnot, under this particular ordinance, we wouldn't necessarily care about that or seek to manage it, right? So all we're trying to manage is the breeding and the sale of the either kittens or puppies.
Correct.
Is
That's why there's a separate definition for breeder and a separate definition for pet store. But again, I can make any sort of changes because I wanted to make it as clear as possible to everybody. And again, this isn't, I guess, my ordinance that I'm pushing forward. I'm just the drafter, and I want it to make it as clear as possible of whatever your guys' intent is for that to be. So I'm not trying to be a pushback, but that's how I wrote it. But if there's a better way to write it, I'm always open for that.
Because I picture a store as like a pet store in the mall, but potentially I could run a store and be a breeder. But I couldn't under this ordinance because I couldn't sell my own.
No. Well, it
Dogs.
says you can't have ownership in the animals, right? I thought it said, nothing in this section shall prohibit pet stores from collaborating with animal care facilities or rescue organizations to offer space for such entities to showcase adoptable dogs, cats, or rabbits, provided the pet store shall not have any ownership interest in the animals offered for adoption and shall not receive any fee for providing space for the adoption of the animals. So the shop owner cannot own the animals or make money from them, it looks like.
Can I maybe share an example?
Sure.
I don't remember where I was. It was somewhere in Wisconsin, and it was a pet store, and they had cats and puppies, but they were from the Humane Society. So I'm thinking that's the direction that you were going with this ordinance. Maybe was that you can adopt it through your Humane Society. They're just kind of showing them at their store.
Right.
Is that helpful?
For some reason, I thought PetSmart had something like that too, where they had like shelter cats for display, but they were clearly marked that they were shelter cats available through them.
Can I say something?
Briefly, please.
Okay, yep, that's exactly what it is. PetSmart Cats and Barkers just over the weekend had animals there that were rescue animals.
Okay, so this would still allow for that, but it wouldn't allow people to profit from these sales.
Correct.
So, what are your thoughts, committee? Yes, no, wait, remove bunnies? It's up to you guys. I don't have a preference here. Chet?
I'll move that we wait one more month on it and see what what the other ordinance that comes out with it.
Okay.
That
Oh,
Nate's
and
working on.
consider it with the kennel license?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, you don't even need a motion. If you guys want to hold action, we just won't act on it tonight. We'll hold it, we'll put it on next month's agenda with the kennel license, and we could consider both together. It might make a little more sense if they dovetail.
Can I just leave this here? It's
Sure.
feeling out Benji information that
Yep.
may clear some of the
Perfect.
questions up. Okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
You bet.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we'll hold that. That'll give some time to mull it over a little bit and gather some additional information too. Item number 4 is the operations report from the fire department for August of 2022. Anything notable on the report that you would like to ask Deputy Chief Kopp about? Anything that you wish to call our attention to, Jeremy, on the report?
Not just like usual, busy month. Governor Evers was with us. Some of you were able to attend, and you all read the report, so I won't add anything.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I've got a question. I apologize, I missed it earlier. Is this confined space training at the new fire department?
Which one are you looking at?
The gin pole, I guess that's on page 16, well, of the minutes. You had training on,
Oh, rope and confined space rigging where they took the photo?
yeah,
They've been doing all that at the old Wausau Chemical Building. As
oh,
well
okay,
as-
so they have tanks and things you can
I think they
exercise.
brought them in. I'd have to check with Division Chief Briggs on where the tank came from, but
Okay, so that's not in our facility.
No.
Okay.
No,
I hadn't seen
not
it
in the
before.
news station, no.
All right, thanks.
Okay. If there's nothing else on that, we'll place their report on file. Item number 5 is the Tavern Activity Report for the month of August. Anything on there that you wish to ask Deputy Chief Barnes about? Looks like a pretty normal month, actually. Anything on the report that you wanted to chat with us about, Matt?
No, I'd agree. It was a pretty standard month.
Yep. Okay, then we'll place that report on file as well. Item number 6 is communications. I have none. Does anybody have a communication? Go ahead, Lou.
I have one suggestion. I don't know if you put it under communications, but I believe now that we have this new, this homeless liaison officer, I certainly would like to see monthly reports from this officer. And
Yep.
I would also like to see, because what kind of tools we as a committee can use to help this, and
Yep.
I'd like to see the pros and cons, the progress, everything that goes on with this. And I
That-
think that this committee
That actually
needs to
starts
stay
in
on top
October.
of that.
We actually have that already as a standing item, starting with October, because she's only been on the job for 2 weeks. So we didn't want to bring her for September, but starting in October, as part of the monthly law enforcement report, we will have an update from Tracy about the outreach activity and how it's going. And then that will also help us identify deficiencies in the tools that she needs to manage the situation. And if those are tools that we can either create for her or consider, we certainly are open to that. So that will come as part of the police monthly report starting in October. The good news is that I had just a brief meeting with her and with Deputy Chief Barnes and the mayor a couple weeks ago, and inspiring to know that on her first day of work, she was able to help 2 people. So she is out there working and doing some onboarding also with Officer Lemerand, who had done that work to begin with. And so the 2 of them are collaborating to help her hit the ground running on that. But any other communications? Deputy Chief Barnes.
Just a piece of housekeeping, and I say this not to correct referring to her as the homeless officer, but I think she would feel very strongly and ask me to do this. Like, she's not a police officer, she's not a community service officer, she's an outreach specialist working with them, and that's important because the population that she's working with don't want to deal with officers. They want to deal with a representative of the city that doesn't take enforcement action.
Sure.
So we've had to correct that, and she's had to correct that over these last couple weeks. I'd also like to add that my apologies. I was out last week. You can guess why with the mask. And my intention was to come here to brief the council or this committee, and hopefully at some point the council, on some of the challenges and things that we're seeing in regards to the unhoused population. And so my hope is that can be on the agenda for the month of October. Both the Parks Department and the Police Department would like to share information
Sure.
and ask for something, which is direction, guidance, policy on what the expectations of us as departments are with that population in the different places that we find them. So that's our intention next month, to bring that forward and begin this conversation, and it just dovetails and works very well with Tracy being able to talk about, through her work, what she's seeing, what her successes have been, and what her failures. And I think it'll give this council a much more engaged, up-to-date perspective so that we can get guidance and direction from you.
Perfect. So we'll have that on for October as well as connected to that report. We'll have received that information from you and from Director Polly. So if you want to forward that to the clerk's office to be included in the packets then for October. And we'll have an update from Tracy as well. And we'll have that in this committee. The Finance Committee, at its last meeting, agreed to move forward to council for next Tuesday night, funding for night shelter year-round and a day center, which hopefully once CPC opens up in October, we'll be able to take flight. So if the council passes that next week, at least it may help address some of the challenges you face as department heads with where people can be and fill some of the void that was lost by the takedown of the mall. I mean, we lost a large public building where people could go, and I think that's increased some pressure on other public spaces. So Hopefully that happens next week, but that's the only update I have. But we'll make sure that those two things are on for October. Any other communications? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion from Henke, second by Larson. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No one ever is. We'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.